Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have the opportunity of interviewing a national award winning author who goes by the name of Jason Reynolds. Jason, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, and thanks for having me on the show today.
Anytime. Today, we are going to talk about how Jason's national award winning book, Stamped, of the story of African American people in the United States. Jason, right off the bat of the story, you make known that your novel is not a history book. Why do you make this comment under the first line of the story and have it be the reader's first interpretation of the book?
Well, you see, I wanted my book to be influential to people who are of color and also people of all ages because, no kid is going to pick up a book that doesn't have pictures in it. And I also just wanted to tell the audience and make sure that they know that it's not a history book, to keep it its own thing and not have it really compared to anything else.
Great. Now, in your book, throughout the first chapter and within the first few pages, you mention the idea of white privilege. In all caps, covering most of the page, you have the word privilege. What is the reason why you made it so that everyone who is reading it would see the message on the page?
Well, even today in our modern society, we still see many of the loopholes that are in today's society, and people have to be informed about it. If I don't mention anything about it, and then nothing is ever going to change. So if people start getting taught and informed about it now, it'll help in the future.
Throughout American history, we have come across having to battle numerous wars against our enemies. In your book, you mentioned that during the wars, many countries, to compete with the opposite side soldiers, had to use colored soldiers, which made some people uncomfortable, but it's what had to be done to fight in the war. It says in August 1792, close to 500,000 enslaved Africans in Haiti rose up against French rule. How do you feel like in today's world people can start to see what is wrong with ourselves and reflect on how these enslaved people were being forced to fight in the wars?
I purposely added that into the story for people to see and have the second reflection after they read it. African American people today don't get nearly as much respect that they should, but they should get because our ancestors were the ones who were fighting. And they were the ones who were fighting those wars. And how are we able to have such a functioning country today?
I see that to title chapter 20 of your book that you titled it "Home is where the hatred is." What was the inspiration behind this chapter title, since it sounds very brutal and strong?
When naming the chapter, I feel it gave the reader a chance in the middle of the book to have a deep thought and give themselves a chance to be able to connect with the book as a whole. In the chapter, I focus on the life of Dubois and the major events of World War II, so I definitely knew that I wanted a title that truly had a meaning behind it and something that benefited the reader.
In chapter 13, Complicated Abe, you talk about the presidency of one of America's greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln. As you know, Abe Lincoln is most known for abolishing slavery during his presidency. In the text, you mentioned saying Lincoln was against racial equality. Why did you feel like you had to mention the fact that Abe Lincoln was against abolishing slavery and did not want to get rid of it?
I wanted the reader to understand and get to know all the little details that are often left out of the discussion when we talk about significant American figures in the past. When you hear about Abe Lincoln, you don't really hear about how he owned slaves and how he was somewhat supporting the terrible act of slavery.
In your story, you bring up the date September 11th, 2001, and what that day brought to America as a country and family. You show the freakness of this event when you say, and then it all came crashing down, literally September 11th, 2001.
Well, the event of 9/11 had a huge impact on people in the United States as a whole. It was a time where we saw people truly coming together and sympathizing, and not having any judgment and not letting fighting go on. Why I think it plays such an important role in the book is that it's a spot in the novel that reminds the reader that we are united together to fight as one.
Near the end of the book, you talk about the topic of Bill Clinton. You start the chapter off by asking the reader a question and telling them a fact about racial inequality when you say, scientific evidence delivered that races are 99.9% the same. By voicing your opinion on Bill Clinton and the scientific research that has been found, how important is it that your readers and audience sees the examples of what's happening in today's society?
In today's world, there are still a lot of people who believe that black people should not have the same rights as white people, and nothing about it is going to change if no one talks. And this is why, and which is why I feel like I had to bring it up a lot, because it's a controversial and hard topic to talk about. But we all think we need to move past them, and we can do that in a beneficial way.
Thank you for coming on the show and answering my questions.
Yeah, man, anytime.